Welcome to another of the Fin Talks series of podcasts from FinanceMalta. I'm Vanessa MacDonald, and with me I'm really thrilled to have Dan Hanqvist, who's the Deputy Director from the Helsinki Geoeconomics School. Why am I so interested? Because I have no idea what geoeconomics is. And I looked up some of the articles you wrote on LinkedIn, so perhaps we can start by asking, what is geoeconomics?
Good question. I think there are several ways of answering that. It's partly an emerging discipline. There's much discussion among academics what it is. Academics need to have clear demarcations for that discipline for budgetary and career purposes. But it's also a kind of state practice, how state play the power game internationally, you might say. And I think there's dissatisfaction among some of us about the focus on sort of military security and traditional diplomatic issues, and the neglect of economics as a matter of power. And the sort of debate about international relations tend to be siloed. So you have military, security, politics in one bucket, and we have economics in another bucket, and we want to bring those together because there is really no difference. Look at, say, tariffs, for instance.
Yes.
Tariffs have traditionally been thought of as an economic tool to protect nascent industries or important stakeholder groups. But we can see, not just from Donald Trump, but particularly now from Donald Trump, that he's using tariffs pretty much like sanctions, sort of aggressively and for non-economic reasons. So I think what we need to get our heads around is that economic instruments, the economic instruments that states have, like trade agreements, anti-dumping, competition law, financial regulations, all those things serve economic purpose, absolutely, but also geopolitical purposes. So economic instruments are used for geopolitical purposes. And likewise, military power, diplomatic power will be used and are being used for economic reasons. So we need to sort of let go of that dichotomy between politics and economics. And
it's a bit frightening because not very long ago we used to think that global trade was going to grow and grow, so that, I mean, especially when you look at companies which are now multinationals and so on, jurisdictions working together and so on, it was supposed to be the opposite. It was supposed to be bigger and more powerful than politics. But what you're saying is that the balance has now changed again.
Or maybe we realized that was always going to
just
be...
a little bit naive.
Yeah, a little bit naive. Now, because interdependence has two sides. It involves sometimes cooperation, friendship, but it's also a source of conflict, and it can be weaponized. So weaponized interdependence is one of those buzzwords, which really is important. And interdependence is rarely symmetrical. Almost always find that one party has the sort of the upper hand. And I think
for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction.
Yeah,
yes.
exactly. So I think that's sort of a realization that economics or economic relationships and economic issues do not translate into peace. People thought that before the First World War. That turned out not to be the case. It's been a mantra for the last 30, 40 years. And I think we have sort of a psychological issue here. We have now several generations of decision makers, both in the private sector and in the public sector, policymakers and corporations, firms who have grown up, have their entire education, their entire experience in this benign, trade-friendly, non-politicized, or supposedly non-politicized world. That world is gone. So we have a set of decision makers who really are at sea and there's nothing in their education really, and nothing in their personal experience that will guide them. So what we try to do in Helsinki is to develop thinking about best practices around how do we approach these risks and how do we navigate this not really new world, but the re-emergence of really the way the world has always been.
One of the things that strikes me is that the time frame is so different, because when you're talking about economic policy and trade policy and so on, you're looking at, if not the medium term or the long term, but certainly the medium term, whereas politics tends to be something which is quite short term, with a 4 or 5 year legislature which can turn things on its head. So how do those two aspects of it, the time aspect of it, how does that work?
That's a challenge. Wearing my military hat, I have a military background. I think we can divide analysis or forecasting into 3 levels: strategic, operational, and tactical. And I think we need to think at all 3 levels. So I think we need to think strategically about long-term trends, and there are important long-term trends, both in terms of economics and politics, and they are the same thing: the rise of China, the rise of India, the decline possibly of the US, the rise of Africa perhaps in future. So that's sort of a long-term, long-standing civilizational preferences will remain. And then we have sort of an operational middle perspective, which you might think of as next electoral cycle, those sort of things. And then we have tactical issues, which is the position now. And from a corporate, and I'm primarily thinking through this from a corporate perspective, when you make a commercial decision, do we invest, do we lend, do we borrow? That's a tactical decision, which has to be informed by the operational and strategic analysis. And of course, strategic analysis has become more difficult because things are moving quickly. One way of looking at it is that we're sort of moving towards the trough of a cycle, perhaps. You can think of the world history as a series of hegemonic cycles. So we had Pax Britannica, which sort of petered out after the First World War, and we had the interim where the US had not yet assumed its hegemonic role. It did after 1945, and we've had a period of relative stability under that hegemony that is now declining, and we have a bit of chaos, and something will emerge at the end of this trough, and we'll have a new cycle. What that will be like, and who will be the hegemon, and what form that hegemony will take, we don't yet know. But it's going to be messy. It's going to be a lot of moving parts. It's going to be very complex. And this, I think, both states, especially small states like Malta, but also companies, really need to get their head around. From the very top, from the boards, down throughout the whole organization, things will move quickly.
Dan, you're terrifying me. And what you've spoken about tends to be the risks. And one of the interesting things I found in one of the articles you wrote is that there are not only risks, but also opportunities. Please give me some good news. What are the opportunities?
No, there are always opportunities when things change. That's the flip side.
Okay.
Risks.
So you sound very optimistic there.
No,
yes.
I'm not sure if I'm optimistic, but that as things change, we will have to do things differently. Now, we will absolutely have to do business differently, but of course we will do business. And there will be new solutions to look at. There will be new friends to do deals with. And I think this is where entrepreneurs have a really central role to play, because what they are good at is to find opportunities. And just the historical life experience, when we have a crisis, it's because things change. And we can use change to find new opportunities. So I think if we accept the crisis, if we accept complexity and start thinking about how do we navigate this with innovation, not just technological innovation, which is very important, which is also a part of this conference, but also institutional innovation. We need to think through our educational systems, our government systems. We need to sort of break through the administrative silos and have some total government approach and total society approach, and same with companies. They need to integrate HR and finance and technical development, government relations. We need to get these things together.
These are all things that people have been saying need to be done for a long time. But you're now saying that they might need to be done in a very short space of time.
Absolutely.
So maybe crisis can be the catalyst that will require for change.
I think there are things to build on. So, for instance, there's a bit of a headwind for ESG people.
Okay.
But I think their experience, the experience of looking through supply chains, looking at external reactions to your business, that experience I think can be repurposed. So I think that can be, they have a real contribution to make to the economic analysis. And I think we need to, that's one way of being innovative and creative. I think we need to find new ways of using the stuff we have and not reinvent the wheel all the time. Then business will be done and businessmen can do business. We just need to sort of stare reality in the face.
So just one very quick last question, because in all of this geopolitical mix and so on, we've got one new one now which we have to take account of, and that is climate change.
Yeah.
Is that something that you're also looking at?
Yes, I think it's pretty obvious that climate change, which I think is a much better word than global warming, I think that's one of the factors, a little bit like demographics, it's one of those factors that we can't change in a hurry. It's sort of a strategic matter in that sense, it's a sort of background noise, and it will affect power balances. It will change the preconditions for various industries. It will open up new agricultural land. It will lead to desertification in some places. It will open up new transport routes, the northwest and the northeast passage. So that's absolutely something to watch. And how we deal with it is also highly political. We have now the current White House, which has now its own view of climate change. We have China, who takes climate change apparently quite seriously. And,
yes, I understand that they're changing their fossil fuel.
Yeah, exactly, and invest in renewables, and that will affect the future power relations. So absolutely, I think climate change is a central concern, which again will create difficulties and create opportunities.
Opportunities. Thank you so much for sharing your insight with us. I would love to sit down in 10 years' time and do this again and see what has actually worked out. Thank you so much for being with us.
Well, thank you for having me.